Hi there and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be walking you through my oil painting process of a Café lait Dahlia. This is actually my first video tutorial, so I'd love it if you'd take the time to like, subscribe, and comment to help me continue to build this channel. Also, feel free to share this video if you know someone who might be interested in painting flowers. So without further ado, let's begin. To start off the painting, I like to fill in the background first. I mostly use acrylics for the first layer as it dries quickly. Here, I am using an angled brush. As you can see, it has a slanted tip that is actually perfect to outline the edges of the petals. I like to put my reference near my canvas or directly in front of me if possible. So in this case, it will be easier for you to go back and forth from your painting and to your reference. Here I'm starting with the upper left petals. I'm just keeping it simple at the beginning and just breaking down the petals into simple shapes. As you can see, I'm not trying to be very detailed at this point. I suggest you squint your eyes to see the simple shapes and try to match them when painting. By the way, the brush that I'm using is a flat brush number 2. It's not an expensive brush. In fact, you can buy a set of brushes like a pack of 10 from Shopee. So the paints that I'll be using here are titanium white, raw umber, brilliant red, scarlet, crimson, and chrome yellow hue. I always paint from dark to light. I mix my paint with a little bit of linseed oil, maybe around 10%, just to make the paint more flowy. I also use a little bit of Galkid to speed up the drying time of my first layer. Also, if your brush has too much paint, you can wipe it off with a paper towel. To soften the color transition, you can use a new brush. I personally prefer to use flat or filbert brush when blending, but you can also use other brushes too. It just really depends on your preference. So just blend the colors lightly, as you don't want to overblend the colors to the point that the paints look muddy. So here, as you can see, I'm not being very careful with my brush strokes. I'm just pretty much just checking out where the darks and the lights are located on the petals. Just for reference, I'm painting on a 24 by 24 inches canvas, and this is a stretched canvas. So I decided to paint this dahlia flower on this scale, 24 by 24 inches, because to me, I find it easier to paint on larger scale than in smaller scale. To achieve warm colors, I add a little bit of raw umber and chrome yellow hue to my mixture of crimson, titanium white, and brilliant red. So the key here is, if you'd like to make the colors darker, just add more raw umber. So if you'd like to make the colors lighter, then add more titanium white. I never use black on this painting since there's no real black in nature. Once the first layer has dried, I go back to define the colors more. I use a filbert brush number 6 to glaze over the dried paints. I add a little bit of paint on my brush and a lot of linseed oil to create a film-like effect on the painting. It smoothens the blending of colors too. If I overblend the colors, I just go back with my angled brush and define the lost details again. Now, since we are painting the inner petals, I'm using more brilliant red, scarlet, and crimson to mix with titanium white. For warmer tones, I add chrome yellow hue into the mix. Now, to make the edges of the back petals look blurry, I mix the paint that hasn't dried yet with raw umber to make a transition from the petals to its dark background. As you notice from the reference photo, the inner petals are more red than the outer petals. So here, we want to make sure that we don't put too much red on the paints. Once we started painting the inner petals, they should be redder than the outer petals. Again, when outlining, you don't have to be very careful. Just sense check the location of the darks and lights from your reference photo. As the painting develops, you will find more subtle values within those too. Just put some ballpark colors first and then adjust them correctly. If you find isolating the colors difficult, I suggest you use any apps wherein you can point at a certain part of your reference and identify the exact color you needed. I personally don't use them as I think painting is free. You can adjust the colors however you like. Here, I wanted to give the flower a little bit of an antique look. That's why you see me add more warm tones on this painting. I'd also like to take this time to thank Botanic Art for letting me use her photo as reference for this painting. You can find her on Instagram at Botanic Art. That's BOTANICART. For the lightest color, I use a mixture of Scarlet and titanium white. That's around 5% Scarlet and 95% titanium white. Once the painting has dried, that's the time we can put our highlights, so that it won't look muddy, as it may still mix with the previous layer if we painted wet on wet. So for the rest of the petals, I just repeat the same process as we did with the previous petals. I use Scarlet and Crimson to paint the outlines of the inner petals. For the darkest value, I use raw Umber and Crimson. Notice that my brush moves into the direction of the petals. Think of it like you are sculpting a flower. You can feel the shape, the curves, and the lines of the petals. Treat it just like it's 3D. So now I'm going back to the already dried paints and add more details. I also adjust the colors as I see fit. And there you have it, our finished oil painting of a Café Dahlia. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you like this. I'll appreciate any kind of feedback. See you on my next painting and have a great day.